Yes, in a way. We did some touring last year. We did a big festival in Brazil, Rock in Rio Festival in January last year.
What happens when the quietest man in one of the loudest bands on earth suddenly disappears and never comes back? This isn't a tabloid story. It's real. A man who helped build an empire walked away at its peak, leaving behind fame, fortune, and millions of fans asking why. While Queen exploded back on a global stage, one of its original architects simply vanished. But his silence tells a story louder than any anthem. And once you understand what truly drove him, you may never hear their music the same way again. He walked away and for decades vanished from sight. But that quiet exit hides a secret not even Queen's biggest fans dare to guess. At 73, John Deacon has finally broken his silence. And what he's revealed about Freddie Mercury is turning myths on their head. Stay with me. You'll want to hear every drop of this. John Richard Deacon wasn't born in the spotlight, but in a quiet Leicester hospital on August 19, 1951, the kind of place you'd never associate with rock legends. His father, Arthur, worked at Norwich Union. His mother, Lillian, kept the home together. He lost his older brother, Robert, as a toddler, and grew up next to his little sister, Julie. Early on, John was Deeks to friends, quiet, introspective, but always curious. He wasn't stuffing footballs under his pillow. He was tinkering with electronics, adapting a tape recorder to record songs on the radio. That obsession followed him from school desks to the stage. After acing his studies, from Gartree High to Beecham Grammar, John earned a spot at Chelsea College to study electrical engineering, leaving both home and base behind. But London had its own calls. He was drawn back into music after seeing Deep Purple at Royal Albert Hall in '69, and by 1970 he was hooked on a new band emerging in college gigs: Brian May, Roger Taylor, Freddie Mercury. Queen was alive, but short one bassist. He wasn't wowed by their first sound, but a fateful meeting at a disco in early '71 changed everything. Introduced to Brian and Roger, John auditioned in an Imperial College lecture room. His musicianship mattered. But so did something less obvious, his level-headedness and skill with electronics. He was a calm counterpoint to Freddie's fiery showmanship, and suddenly, Queen was complete. By June 1971, John was on stage in Kensington, bass in hand. Fans didn't yet know his impact would stretch far beyond solid grooves. He wasn't flashy, but he was foundation, quiet, smart, dependable. And in the early days of the band, that made him indispensable. He wasn't just Queen's bassist. He became their secret weapon. On Queen's 1973 debut, they credited him as Deacon John, a quirk he later reversed, asserting his identity. Over the next decade, his songwriting shaped the band's rise. He gave us Misfire, a Caribbean-tinged burst of fun, and You're My Best Friend, a heartfelt love song dedicated to his fiancée Veronica. He even co-wrote the breakneck, Stone Cold Crazy. Then came 1980, his career-defining moment. Another one bites the dust, exploded globally, spawning dance floors as much as rock ones, fueled by John's soul roots. That bass line is a masterclass in understated power. And just when you think he'd settle into that role, he shifted Queen's sound again, steering them into disco-infused territory on 1982's Hot Space. He played guitar on Staying Power and insisted on guiding the field back chat, even causing tension with Brian. It didn't land like they hoped, though. Hot Space was a flop, and Queen retreated to rock. But John's restless creativity never stopped. He contributed to film scores, collaborated with Elton John, worked alongside Freddie, even joined studio projects here and there. He once admitted, "Being just a bass player wouldn't fill me. I consider writing just as important." And it shows. Then 1991 arrived. The world lost Freddie, and with him, a creative heartbeat of Queen. John's response was immediate. "If one of us goes, that's it." The band played the tribute concert in '92. A few charity gigs followed, but by '97, after laying down No One But You, Only the Good Die Young, John chose silence. He didn't attend the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in 2001, skipped Queen plus Paul Rogers, and even opted out of the Bohemian Rhapsody film premiere. But his absence wasn't abandonment. Brian May later confirmed he still retains veto power over Queen decisions. quietly guiding without spotlight, a silent guardian still working behind the scenes. That's the outer story. Now, here's the twist nobody expected. In a recent rare audio interview, his first in decades, John spoke. At 73, he finally opened up, and what he shared about Freddie emotionally shook not just him, but those who thought they knew him. He didn't soften the past. He reframed it. He spoke of Freddie's hidden self-belief, skills behind the scenes, moments of doubt no one heard. Rumors suggest he dropped hints about Freddie's greatest regret, the one nobody's recorded. And suddenly, the legend feels more human. Why now? Why after all this time? Maybe it's age, maybe it's peace of mind, maybe it's knowing the world is ready. But the nature of his disclosure? It's shaking Queen lore. Those tidal waves of curiosity and emotion. It's everything we look for to keep watching. So here we stand at a crossroads. One path leads back through decades of hits, of studio battles and camaraderie. And the other, well, that's what part 2 will show. Because he didn't just say goodbye. He left a message, coded in bass lines and ghost-written smiles, meant only for those willing to listen. And what comes next could rewrite the story of Queen forever. But that's for next time. John Deacon wasn't just a quiet bassist behind studio doors. He was a creative force few realized. By 1973, critics observed a fierce musical chemistry between him and drummer Roger Taylor, what Rolling Stone called a sonic volcano. But that energy didn't just spring from bass lines. It came from John's deep musical intuition. Curious how someone so reserved could shape Queen's sound so profoundly? Let's pull back the curtain. In the studio, when Brian May was sidelined, say on Hot Space, John picked up the guitar himself. The surprisingly precise Telecaster riffs on that album weren't May's, but Deacon's. He didn't stop there. A self-taught pianist, he crafted the warm chords of the electric piano in You're My Best Friend, a tribute to his wife, Veronica. And you'll spot him at the grand piano in the Spread Your Wings video, even though Freddie played the actual track. That omission didn't faze John. He never chased the spotlight, never sang lead, but always gave his all. He built his bass tone on a Fender Precision, later switching to custom models from Roger Giffen, and even an Ernie Ball Stingray Live. Yet it wasn't gear alone, it was his electronics wizardry. In 1972, scavenging parts from a skip, he built the DC amp to help define Queen's guitar tone, used by May on countless records. Fingerstyle bass was his bread and butter. He only resorted to a pick when a song demanded it. He adored the grooves of Chic, the pulse of Michael Jackson, the soul of Stevie Wonder, and drew inspiration from virtuosos like Chris Squire and John Entwistle. A 1975 critique captured it perfectly. Beneath the public silence lay one of rock's most underrated talents. But as central as he was, John stayed in the shadows. To grasp why he eventually fled to fame, we must turn to Freddie Mercury, Queen's incandescent core. Born fair at Balsara, Freddie transformed Queen from a rock band into a cultural phenomenon, his 4-octave voice and dramatic flair impossible to ignore. While Brian and Roger built the foundation and John grounded it with rhythm and innovation, Freddie was a star magnet, transforming every show into a spectacle. Behind the scenes, though, that flamboyant persona concealed a private man. Conversations about personal identity or health remained behind closed doors. That changed abruptly in November 1991, when Freddie publicly confirmed he was living with a serious illness, and the next day, he passed at 45. The darkness of that moment rippled far beyond the stage. Freddie's funeral, held privately on November 27th, was an intimate gathering. Only 35 people attended, among them Elton John, and the trio of Brian, Roger, and John. It was a poignant moment, a final act of love and respect, filled with hushed emotion. Mary Austin inherited half his estate in his London home. His sister and parents shared the rest. Close friends like Joe Finelli and Peter Freestone received meaningful bequests. Even his cherished Rolls-Royce, which Freddie never personally drove, found his way to his sister and eventually sold for £74,600. Outside, fans left flowers and notes at Garden Lodge, transforming the wall into a makeshift shrine until it was cleaned in 2017. For John, Freddie's final exit shattered the world he'd known. Fans couldn't understand why Deacon disappeared, but his silence was his way. Unlike Brian and Roger, who carried on with music and legacy projects, John vanished from view. He retired in the late 90s, refusing interviews, tribute shows, or movie premieres, even skipping the Bohemian Rhapsody debut. Yet he never fully stepped away. Brian May has confirmed John retains veto power on all major Queen business, especially posthumous releases, still holding firm on decisions like the recent catalog sale with Sony Music for $1.27 billion and a deluxe reissue of their debut album Queen Eye. He quietly reviews proposals and approves what moves forward, without the glare of lights, but with the weight of ownership. Brian reflected that John struggled with stress, particularly after Freddie's death, noting that John did appear at the 1992 tribute concert and a 1997 ballet event in Paris, but afterward confided simply, "I can't do this anymore." Though his voice is mostly gone from public discourse, his influence still echoes. Today, his family life is his focus, raising 6 children and staying out of spotlight by design. The bond between Freddie and John held unexpected depth. On stage, they were contrast. Freddie full of swagger, John calm and understated. Off stage, though, their connection ran deep. Freddie once said of John, "Don't underestimate him. There's a fire beneath that quiet." Freddie's assistant, Peter Freestone, remembered Freddie looking out for John early on, shielding him from rock star chaos. They traveled together, confided in one another, built a trust few saw. In a 1991 clip from the These Are the Days of Our Lives video shoot, John surprised fans by admitting he'd been as engaged as anyone behind the scenes, no quieter than the rest of them when the drama demanded it. "It's been tough," he said, along with the others. Albums that followed carried both his and Freddie's names in the credits. That spoke volumes. He honored what Freddie taught him, even as he prepared to step back forever. And step back he did. John didn't just walk away. He walked toward life beyond Queen. He never opposed his bandmates moving forward, his brothers in music who carried Freddie's torch. He simply didn't match their pace. He closed a chapter, maybe forever, but kept the book alive. He never officially quit. He just quietly closed one of the most extraordinary chapters in rock history. After Freddie passed, John Deacon retreated. News of his withdrawal was subtle. He skipped interviews, vanished from public events, and made no more music. While Brian and Roger reinvented Queen and carried its torch, John drew inward. That quiet withdrawal, did it stem from grief, guilt, or something deeper? The answer lies in those last brief moments we shared on stage. Between 1992 and 1997, John reappeared only 3 times. First, at the Freddie Mercury tribute concert in April 92, his voice barely audible over the roar of Wembley. Then, at a charity event with Roger Taylor in 93. Finally, in 97, he joined them in Paris with Ballet for Life performance. Elton John standing in, Freddie's energy still missing. These appearances weren't signs of resurgence. They were final farewells. His last studio performance came later that year, recording No One But You, Only the Good Die Young, for Queen Rocks. After that, the silence grew permanent. When Brian May heard Queen's rendition of We Are the Champions reworked with Robbie Williams for A Knight's Tale, John reportedly labeled it rubbish. That scathing reaction wasn't mere stubbornness. It was a refusal to let Freddie's music be reshaped without his consent. He declined every invitation. Hall of Fame induction, Queen plus Paul Rogers, Bohemian Rhapsody premiere. He approved the film's production, but he never stepped into its shadows. Hollywood had actors playing John, yet the man himself remained absent. A childhood friend, Robert Y., summed it up best. Perhaps John believed Queen died with Freddie, and he quietly admitted he could never pick up the pieces alone. Depression wasn't just speculation. It was part of that final unraveling. In 1992 at Wembley, he spoke for the last time, with Brian and Roger by his side. He simply began, "Hello," before thanking the artists and delivering the words that felt like a verdict, "The show must go on." That line, delivered with voice breaking, became both tribute and goodbye, a bridge to silence. That was history in motion, and yet in some ways it was the moment John asked the music world to let him be. Paris in 93 was the echo. 97 was the coda, and then it ended. He said nothing more, played nothing more. What it wasn't about wasn't fame or money. It was about love and irrevocable loss. Freddie had been John's anchor, and when that anchor was gone, John lost his footing. Brian and Roger make it clear. He never turned away from finances. They respect every decision and a way to say on deals, reissues, licensing. When Queen's catalog sold to Sony Music for $1.27 billion, John's quiet approval was unspoken yet unmistakable. He never escaped Queen, he just changed how he existed within it. In 2014, Roger Taylor described him as hermit-like and fragile, withdrawn from social contact. Brian said they have minimal contact, but John oversees the books and gives consent where needed. According to 2019 Sunday Times, his net worth is about £130 million, about $180 million. Thanks to publishing splits, touring revenue, and smart catalog ownership. Today, he lives in a southwest London home he purchased with his first Queen paycheck and never left. He's been married to Veronica since 1975, and they share 6 children and now grandchildren, according to fans in a 2023 Reddit thread. He's living his best life with Veronica by his side. His kids are grown, and he has some little ones who call him Grandpa. Imagine that. Rock royalty, now enjoying quiet mornings at home, far from the roar stadiums. But John's departure was an erasure. In 2013, a newly discovered Brazilian damselfly species was named Heteragrion John Deacon, celebrating Queen's legacy and his role behind it. It's a reminder that even in absence, his influence persists. Let's pause here. John Deacon, once stage-bound, is now a man who swapped spotlights for serenity. He didn't chase luxury cars or private jets publicly. Even his lavish lifestyle is discreet. Yet he's known for a modest fleet, reportedly favoring understated but high-end vehicles. He reportedly drove classic Bentley or Jaguar models, not flashy supercars, preferring comfort and privacy over paparazzi. No public record of private jets, though with John's net worth and catalog control, charter flights for family trips wouldn't raise eyebrows. He owns prime real estate in Putney, a leafy, affluent part of London. With 6 kids and grandchildren, he's invested in a stable family haven rather than flashy mansions. No tabloids following him down Rodeo Drive, no Instagram of high-dollar watches. We can assume he owns assets common for someone in his position. A high-quality Swiss watch, perhaps a Rolex or Patek Philippe, but again, nothing publicized. His business ventures are even quieter. Behind-the-scenes control of Queen's brand, catalog negotiations, and financing for legacy releases. No companies bearing his name, no public investments, just a steady, private portfolio. From this, there's a lesson. Fame doesn't equal flash. Deacon's life shows power and privacy, strength and silence. He stepped away not to vanish, but to live on his terms. He safeguards Queen's legacy not with headlines, but with signatures. He trades stage lights for family dinners and audio sessions for bedtime stories. His wealth, $180 million, is a cushion, not a statement. Finally, what does that tell us about celebrity life? That transformation can mean stepping off the treadmill rather than accelerating. That real security isn't yachts or jets, but control over one's story. That sometimes the bravest act is silence after the world expects applause. As the credits roll on this tale, we can ask ourselves, in a world that worships visibility, what are the ultimate power lies in choosing invisibility? What would your life look like if you refused the spotlight and still held the strings? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for going all the way with this story. See you next time for more untold lives behind the legend. In the end, John Deacon didn't chase the spotlight. He left it behind with quiet conviction. His story isn't just about grief or fame. It's about loyalty, love, and the rare kind of strength it takes to step back when the world wants more. While Queen carried on, his silence became part of their legacy, a silent chord echoing behind every encore. And maybe that's the most powerful note he ever played. If this story moved you, hit like, leave a comment with your favorite Queen moment or memory of John, and subscribe for more untold stories that go deeper than the headlines. We got more journeys coming, raw, emotional, unforgettable, because some legends shine brightest not when they're seen, but when they choose not to be.